Yesterday was Triple T Day. Trump, tariffs, and Tesla. Politics dominated business and economic news, just in the biggest day we've seen that ever happen.
So we'll tell you what Trump's tariff Liberation Day means for your money.
All right, Yetis, let's talk about the first T, Tesla, because Tesla has just been accelerating in reverse lately.
While SpaceX and X are both benefiting from Elon's conservative politics, his biggest company, Tesla, is not.
Which leads to the news. Tesla announced that deliveries of their electric cars fell 13% in the first quarter.
That's the worst quarter in Tesla history.
But here was the shocking part about the Tesla news. Tesla stock actually rose despite those bad numbers.
That's because of a report from Politico that says that Trump is telling his inner circle that Elon is going to be quitting his government doge role in the coming weeks.
Investors just want Elon back at the CEO desk of Tesla, not wearing a suit and tie walking around Washington, D.C.
But speaking of Donald Trump, he was the second T.
Yes, he was.
And he announced the third T yesterday.
Yeah, tariffs.
Trump announced at the White House a huge economic announcement that he labeled Liberation Day.
Liberation Day. And here's what Liberation Day brought. Frankly, some huge tariffs.
Trump announced reciprocal tariffs with a 50% discount.
Jack, could you do some mathematical translation for us over there?
Whatever other countries are tariffing the United States, we will apply half as big a tariff on them.
When it comes to tariffs, a half tit for tat.
Now, we should point out that Trump's calculation of what other countries are tariffing us, they included alleged currency manipulation and other trade unfairness that he didn't get specific on.
But an example of this would be with China, where Trump says they tariff us at 67% based on his calculations. So what kind of tariff will we levy on them, Jack?
Half as big. A 34% new tariff on all things made in China.
Or Jack, what about the EU? Over in Europe, Trump says they tariff us at 39%.
So we're going to charge them a new 20% tariff on all stuff made in the European Union.
In fact, every country in the world is getting at least a 10% tariff, and Trump basically whipped out a map to show us how it's all going down.
The image yesterday was Trump holding a chart with dozens and dozens of countries and the new tariff percentage that the United States is going to start charging.
Where in the world is Carmen San Diego getting tariffed? 10% at least everywhere.
Now, all of these tariffs are effective immediately, by the way, which means, Nick and I were thinking about it, Chinese-made iPhones are going to be more expensive starting really, really soon.
Unless, like all of Trump's policies, everything is subject to change at a moment's notice. In fact, as you're listening to this, it may have already changed.
Now, in theory, Trump's reciprocal tariffs mean that countries could drop their tariffs on the United States, and then we would drop our tariffs on them as well.
Trump also said, hey, if you make your products here in America, your tariffs will go to zero.
Now, there is so much to unpack from this story. This is like a jumbo jet worth of an economic announcement.
It's basically going to be the economic story of the year, of the decade, maybe even of the century.
And now every country is going to have to decide, do we retaliate or do we try to make a deal?
But the big question we were curious about is, what does the tariff news mean for your wallet? So Jack, what's the takeaway for our buddies who are everyone in America?
The numbers are in. This trade war will cost each American household $3,600 per year.
Yeah, it is. The potential benefits to America for Trump's trade war is more U.S. manufacturing.
But Yale University's budget lab calculated the overall impacts, and overall, it's quite negative for the average American.
Yale calculated how 20% tariffs across the board would affect the average American consumer.
So based on 20% tariffs, which I actually think the announcement yesterday was more than that, but 20% tariffs across the board would cost Americans $3,600 each year in more expensive stuff.
Because those tariffs will get passed down to the consumer, and those extra costs would then hurt low-income households the worst, based on the estimates.
Now, Donald Trump has said for years he doesn't believe what experts like Yale University say about tariffs.
And he said he's okay with prices going up because he thinks it'll lead to more factories in America, which it might.
But we do believe the economists at Yale University because we understand the economics of it.
And Trump's new taxes, they will cost the average American household nearly $4,000 a year.